أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في محكم كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. صلوات على محمد. Human beings in this world find that their life is full of ups and downs, full of challenges, full of striving and struggle, full of stress. This is not only true for us who live now in the 21st century, but also for those who lived before us. All human beings had to undergo and have to undergo this difficulty when they come into this world. When you are in a phase of ease and peace and tranquility, it doesn't last. After a short period, something comes up, some difficulty, some problem. And human beings are therefore in a state of constant striving and struggle. Why is there this struggle? Why can we not just have a very happy, tranquil, peaceful life? Because struggle is what builds us. Struggle is what makes us better than what we are. In fact, without struggle and without striving, human beings would not be able to live in this world. And this is true not only for human beings, but for other creatures as well. There was an interesting experiment carried out in the University of California, Berkeley, where they took an amoeba. You know, amoeba is a single-cell organism. They took an amoeba and they put it in such an environment where it didn't have to struggle. It was a stress-free environment. And very soon after, that amoeba died. And after they conducted this experiment, the conclusion they came to is that even single-celled organisms in this world need a challenge, need some sort of struggle in order to survive. And therefore we find that human beings are in this cycle of struggle, difficulty, and ease, peace. Again struggle, again ease. It's a cycle. We should understand that this is for our benefit and for our progress, that we have to undergo these different challenges and struggles in life. There was a man called George Dantzig, who died in 2005. And he was one of the foremost mathematicians of his time. He relates in his autobiography how he became this famous mathematician. He says, when I was in university, one day I reached class late. And the professor had put down 2 mathematical problems on the blackboard. So when I reached class and I saw these 2 mathematical problems on the blackboard, I thought this must be a homework assignment for me and for the other students. So I jotted it down in my notebook as part of my homework assignment. He didn't know that what it was actually was not a homework assignment. Rather, the professor was showing his students 2 of the hardest unsolved mathematical problems of his time. But George Dantzig thought this was homework. So he says, I went home and I sat on these 2 mathematical problems and I worked on them for hours. In the next session, when I went to the class, I gave my professor my solutions to these 2 mathematical problems. Very soon after, the professor came knocking at my door, my dorm room door, and he said, you have managed to solve one of the problems that no other mathematician till this time has been able to solve. And then he writes in his autobiography, had I known that this was not homework, rather it is just 2 problems that no one has solved, I would not have struggled so much to try and solve it. It is because I struggled so much that I was able to solve these mathematical problems, and this led to the beginning of my illustrious career, and I became a world-renowned mathematician. So therefore, struggling and striving is part of our existence. Allah Azza wa Jal says very clearly in the Holy Quran, وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. There is nothing that human beings will acquire without struggle. You want anything, you need to strive for it. If you want wealth, you need to strive for it. You want knowledge, you need to strive for it. You want status, you need to strive for it. You want to be an expert in a particular field, you need to strive and struggle for it. Nothing comes without struggle. And even the akhirah comes with struggle and striving only. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا. And one who wants the akhirah also has to struggle and strive very hard, and then they will gain that akhirah. So nothing comes without struggle. And that is why Islam is always teaching us about hard work. Islam wants Muslims to be hard-working people, striving people. Islam does not like laziness and lethargy. Islam is against laziness. The places where laziness is mentioned in the Quran is where the munafiqeen are being described. When they come to pray, they come when they are lazy. لا يأتون الصلاة إلا وهم كسالى. They don't come to pray unless they are in a state of laziness. They don't know what they are saying in their salah. وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كَارِهُونَ. And they don't give donations except hesitantly. This is the definition of a munafiq. And therefore, for a good Muslim, striving and struggling is part and parcel of their daily lives. This is the teaching of Islam. Now, as human beings go through life, one of the aspects of their psychology is that they always follow others whom they think are on the right. Many human beings, if not most, follow others blindly, especially in situations where there is some sort of urgency. So for example, researchers have shown that if there is an emergency, Imagine a situation where human beings are in a hall and suddenly a fire breaks out. And they have to come out, they have to rush out quickly, they have to evacuate. You will find all of them running for one exit. You will not find some running for one exit, others running for the other exit. Why? Because everyone thinks, oh, where is the exit? Where is the exit? Where they see people going, they follow them blindly. And that causes death, because so many die in the stampede, so many are not able to come out on time. And you find there were so many other exits on the other side, nobody attempted to go and come out of that burning building from the other exits. So when there is that urgency, human beings just follow blindly. They don't think, because it is a sense of urgency that overcomes them. Even when there is no urgency, sometimes human beings follow other human beings blindly. There is always a sense of wanting to follow someone who is right. That is ingrained inside human beings. And that is what leads us to understand the need for role models. We need role models. We need someone to follow. We need an example. We need an exemplar. And that is why Allah Azza wa Jal, who has created us and knows that we need an example, He says, I have given you the best example. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. I have given you the best example in the person of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. This is your role model. If you want to follow someone, you follow him. And what a beautiful role model he is. Not only for the Muslim, but for human beings in general. We cannot go through all the examples from his life. But I will give you one example which stands out as one of the best examples that show how the Holy Prophet was an example for all of us, a role model for all of us. Ibn Abbas narrates that it was during the last days of the Holy Prophet's life, when the Holy Prophet had become very weak. He said, take me to the masjid, I want to address the people. And he climbed on the pulpit and he addressed the people. He said, oh people, have I not done my duty towards you? Have I not bled in service of Islam and the message of Islam? And they said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, you have done your duty. We bear witness. Then the Prophet says that now I am going to leave this world. So if any one of you has anything against me, has any right upon me, please speak now. It was a large gathering. This was the last address of the Holy Prophet to the people. So from the back of the gathering, one old man stands up by the name of Sawdat ibn Qais. Sawdat ibn Qais says, Ya Rasulullah, there was one time that you were riding on your camel on the way to Ta'if, and you had in your hand a thin stick, and you were using that stick to direct the camel, and you hit me with that stick on my shoulder. I don't know if you did it intentionally or unintentionally. This is what Sawdat ibn Qais said. So the Holy Prophet said, Ma'adallah, I would not do such a thing intentionally. And then he told Bilal, Bilal, go to the house of Fatima and bring me that stick. Bilal goes to the house of Janab Fatima Zahra salawatullahi wa salamu alayha. And he says, "O daughter of the Prophet of Allah, your father has asked me to bring that stick." So she asks, why does he want the stick? And Bilal tells her the whole story, so she starts to weep. And she gives him the stick. And the Prophet of Allah, when he gets the stick, he calls that man, Sawdat ibn Qais, come forward. And he gives him the stick. The man says, "Ya Rasulullah, I want you to open your shirt." The Prophet opens his shirt. And then he kisses the shoulder of the Holy Prophet. Allah. He kisses the shoulder of the Holy Prophet. The Prophet had not done anything to anyone to deserve any sort of retribution. This was just an excuse to come near Rasulullah from the back of the gathering and to kiss his shoulder. But people did not understand Rasulullah. Even in his lifetime, people did not understand Rasulullah. Such that at one time, one of the Jews had taken one of the camels belonging to the Prophet, and the Prophet saw his camel. He told the Jew, "This is my camel." The Jew said, "No, it is my camel." "Bring a witness," he said, "bring a witness." So the Prophet asked his companions, "Who will bear witness that this is my camel?" Nobody was ready to bear witness. "Ya Rasulullah, we don't." At that moment, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he was passing by. He said, "I bear witness, Ya Rasulullah, this is your camel." The companions asking, "Oh Ali, how can you bear witness when you don't know about this?" He said, "If I can believe that the Prophet brought the message from Allah to me, how can I not believe his statement that this is my camel?" People did not understand. And that is why in dua we always recite, "Allahumma inna nashku ilayka faqda nabiyyina." Oh Allah, this is a role model for us in our lives. After the demise of the Holy Prophet, the role model for us was Imam Ali alayhi salam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And there are many instances from his life also. We cannot discuss all of them. Let's take one example. When he was the Khalifa of his time, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and he is coming out from the masjid, on the way he sees a young slave girl, a small slave girl, crying. So he asks her, "Why are you crying?" And she says, "My master sent me to buy some dates. So I went to the shopkeeper and I bought the dates, but when I went back, my master said these dates are not fresh. So he turned me away. When I brought them back to the shopkeeper also did not want to entertain me. He turned me away. I don't know what to do." So she was crying. So Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam takes her to the shopkeeper. He says, "Why are you being so harsh to such a young child? Why don't you help her? These dates are not fresh." Now that shopkeeper did not know that this was the Khalifa. So he started being rude and abusive to an extent that he pushed Imam Ali alayhi salam. If you knew, who had lifted Khaybar, one salawat ala Muhammad. He would not have done that. He would not have done that. So the people came and they started saying, "What have you done? Don't you know this is Amirul Mu'mineen?" So he started trembling. And Imam Ali alayhi salam said, this is not the way you treat those who are your subordinates. You have to be kind to them. And as the commotion increased, even the owner of the slave girl came and he also sought forgiveness from Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he treated her with kindness. But the problem is that when the people saw how beautiful the morals of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were, some of them had envy in their heart, and jealousy in their heart, and hatred in their heart. And that is why a person like George Jordak had to write, قُتِلَ عَلِي فِي مِحْرَابِ عِبَادَتِهِ لِشِدَّةِ عَدْلِهِ. Imam Ali alayhi salam was killed in his mihrab because of the intensity of his adl, of his justice. These are our role models. And therefore, there was a movement against the Ahlul Bayt. There was a movement against the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. When a person comes from Sham and he sees Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, he starts abusing the Imam. The Imam is silent and he listens to everything that man has to say, and then he says, maybe you are a guest in Medina. If you need something, let me know. If you need a place to stay, let me know. If you need clothes, let me know. If you need food, let me know. And he won over the heart of that man with his response. But those who are followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam had always had to suffer at the hands of those who hated the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Those who loved Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam throughout history had to suffer because of their love of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And that is why sometimes they had to resort to certain ways of dealing with the enemies such that they would remain safe. Where one of the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam was cornered by one of the khulafa of his time, and he said, who was the Khalifa after Rasulullah? And now he knew, if I say what is in my heart, then I will lose my head. And so he replied, Man bintuhu fi bayti, the one whose daughter is in his house. And that answer can be applied to Abu Bakr and to Imam Ali alayhi salam, because man bintuhu fi baytihi can mean the one whose daughter is in his house. That means Abu Bakr's daughter is in the Prophet's house, or the Prophet's daughter is in Imam Ali's house. So it could mean Imam Ali alayhi salam. They had to resort to it. And this is not something new. Even from the time of Fir'aun, this has been happening. There was a mu'min from the family of Fir'aun, the mu'min of Ali Fir'aun. The people in the court of Fir'aun went to complain to him and said, Fir'aun, do you know there is a family member of yours who is a mu'min? He believes in Musa. He believes in one God. He does not accept you as his God. So Fir'aun corners him in his darbar, in his court. And he asks him, who is your Lord? Who is your God? Who is your creator? Who is your sustainer? And the mu'min of Ali Fir'aun says, I will answer your question just now. So he turns to the courtiers of Fir'aun, those who are in the court, and he asks them, who is your Lord? They say, Fir'aun. Who is your sustainer? Fir'aun. Who is your creator? They say, Fir'aun. Then he says, I bear witness that the one who has created them has created me. The one who sustains them sustains me. The one who is their Lord is my Lord. So he saved his head from Fir'aun. And those who have been the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, those who have been the followers of the prophets and the awliya and the true guides have always had to deal with the enemies. We take as our role models none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and his Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So what do they want from us? If they are our role models, they are our guides, we accept them as our leaders, what do they want from us? They tell us what they want. They say, "Kunu lana zayna wa la takunu alayna shayna." You are our followers, be a source of pride for us, don't be a source of humiliation for us. Kunu lana du'atan samitin. Be for us those who invite without speaking. How do you invite people without speaking? By your akhlaq, by your behavior. كونوا دعاة للناس بغير ألسنتكم. Invite people without using your tongue, by your good akhlaq. That is what they want from us. There was a mu'min brother who came many years ago to Qum, and he had a meeting with the students who are from East Africa, and he was telling us a very interesting story, himself being from East Africa. He said to us, "Do you know, at one time I almost became a Christian." So we were surprised. This is a mu'min, a well-known individual. And then he told us, "You know, the reason for this is I had become very sick one time, and there was no place in another hospital except in a Christian missionary hospital. And I was taken to that hospital, and when I saw the way the nurses were treating the sick people, it entered in my heart that these are indeed the true believers. How can they be so kind? How can they be so selfless in their service of those who are not well?" So at that moment, I felt that I would become a Christian. The actions that you do have an effect on the people. The way you behave affects the people. And that is why in history you find that it is not possible to find a case where the conqueror accepts the religion of the conquered, but in Islam it has happened. When the Mongols conquered the Muslim lands, they accepted the religion of their conquered people, because they saw that the Muslims are behaving in such a good way, there's such a good akhlaq about them, that the conquerors became Muslims. No other religion you can show where those who conquered accepted the religion of those whom they had conquered. But unfortunately, there is another side to the story. When we do not have this good akhlaq, then we tarnish the name of Islam. How many reverts are there to Islam? Converts or reverts, however you want to refer to them. I know some personally, they tell us we have double problem. First problem is that our family are still Christians or are still Hindus, and they do not accept us because we have become Muslims. But second problem is Muslims also don't treat us well. We have problem with our family and with the Muslims. Why should we do that? Why should our akhlaq be such that we cause tarnishing to the name of Islam? No. Husnul khuluq is very important in Islam. The Prophet says, Innama. Innama means the only reason. Innama bu'ithtu li'utammima makarim al-akhlaq. The only reason I have been sent is to perfect the akhlaq of the people. And so we should have that good akhlaq in us. We should not give an excuse to anyone to say, this must be a Muslim. Look at the way they are behaving. They must be a Muslim. Oh. In the negative sense. That is not correct. There were two sisters. One of the scholars mentions this in his book. He says there were two sisters and their husbands had different professions. One sister's husband was a baker. He had a confectionery shop. He would sell pastries and sweets and mithai and all these things. Whereas the other sister, her husband was a vinegar merchant. He would sell vinegar. The one who was selling mithai and sweets and pastries was doing very poor business. But the one who was selling vinegar was doing a lot of prosperous business. He was flourishing in his business. So one day these two sisters meet one another. And the sister who is the wife of the baker asks her sister, what is this? It doesn't make sense to me. My husband is selling something sweet, but his business is not doing well. Your husband is selling something sour and bitter, but he's doing so well. So the sister replies that your husband is selling something sweet, but in a bitter way, in a sour tone. But my husband is selling something sour, but in a sweet tone. And in that way, you win the people. If your akhlaq is good, you win the people. And this is very, very important for us to understand in our daily lives. We want to be role models for other people. The best way that we can be role models for other people is if we have a good akhlaq, if we have a good character. And if you look at history, you find so many instances where people have converted only because of the akhlaq. There is a new book that has come out which is quite interesting. Since I have a few more minutes, let me mention it to you. It is about the trip of Sayyid Ali Husseini As-Sistani Dama Dhillu to the UK for treatment. You know that he went to the UK for treatment. So one of the people who accompanied him has written a book. It has been written in Arabic and in Farsi, in which he writes about that trip from the time the decision was made, how the decision was made, how he went to the airport, how he caught a plane, what happened in the UK, what happened when he came back. Everything. Beautiful book. In that book, he tells us of one meeting that Ayatollah Sistani Dama Dhillu had in the UK when he met the leader of the Bohras, Sayyid Muhammad Burhanuddin Sahib. When he was in the UK, the leader of the Bohras at that time was in the UK. So he sends a message that I want to meet Sayyid Sistani. So Sayyid Sistani had given strict instructions that I am not going to meet any political dignitaries. But this was not a political dignitary. So he said, okay, I will meet with him on one condition. What is the condition? That there will be no gifts. That he should not bring any gifts. If he wants to give me a gift, he should bring gifts of books. That I will accept. Books I will accept, but any other gift I am not going to accept. That is a precondition. The time for the meeting comes, and Sayyid Burhanuddin comes with his entourage to meet Sayyid Sistani. A lot of pleasantries are exchanged, respect is shown on both sides, and then he gives Sayyid Sistani a gift. Allahu Akbar. Sayyid Sistani had told them no gifts. What does he do? Does he reject the gift? He said, no, I had said no gift. No, he takes the gift. He says, thank you, I accept this gift. And then immediately he said, now I gift this to your son. And he gives it to the son of Sayyid Muhammad Burhanuddin. So the respect has also been maintained and his principles have also been maintained. This is a practical example, because sometimes we mention examples of our Aimma alayhimus salam. The people tell us, but they were ma'soom. They were ma'soom, yes, but they were our role models. They are showing us how to behave. This is the way we are meant to behave. Let us pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the tawfiq and the ability to be such that we shine in the community as followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Such that if anything good happens, people should say this must be a follower of Ahlul Bayt. And if anything bad happens, they should never point a finger at the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.